expected entry by corner. Lost big left on me.
Russell did not just steal pole from Ferrari. He forced the entire paddock to ask one terrifying question. What was hiding inside that Mercedes in the exact seconds after Verstappen hit the wall? Ferrari thought they had done it. Leclerc was there. Hamilton was there. The red cars had shocked Austria, and Fred Vasseur was already staring at the kind of result that can change a championship. Then Russell crossed the line. Pole position. Under yellow flags. And suddenly, Ferrari's celebration turned into suspicion, because the answer was not in the timing screen. It was buried inside Russell's car in the throttle trace, the brake data, and the tiny lift that decided whether his lap was legal or whether Ferrari had just been robbed in front of the world. But that was only the first shock. Because while everyone argued about Russell, Vasseur discovered something even bigger. Ferrari's new engine had worked. Maybe too well. And by the end of this story, the real question is not whether Russell deserved pole. It is whether Mercedes accidentally exposed the moment Ferrari became a championship threat. Subscribe to the channel. Austria was not supposed to be Ferrari's weekend. That is what made the first warning sign so easy to miss. On Friday, the story looked simple. Mercedes had the cleaner car. Russell looked sharp. Antonelli looked fast. And Ferrari, even with Hamilton and Leclerc, looked like a team still searching for the missing piece. The Red Bull ring does not forgive weakness. It is short, aggressive, and brutally honest. If your car lacks power, the stopwatch exposes it. If your tires slide, the lap disappears. If your setup is even slightly wrong, the corners arrive too quickly for the driver to hide the problem. And Ferrari had problems. Leclerc was not happy with the grip. The car was sliding across all four tires, which is one of the worst feelings a driver can have. It means the front is not giving enough bite, the rear is not giving enough confidence, and every corner feels like a negotiation with the car instead of an attack on the circuit. Hamilton had a different concern. His message was short but serious. The car was locking. That kind of problem can destroy trust, especially around Austria, where a driver has to brake hard, rotate the car quickly, and launch out of slow corners without hesitation. So by the end of Friday, Ferrari did not look like a team about to shock the paddock. They looked like a team trying to survive a Mercedes weekend. But inside the garage, the mood was not as simple as it looked from the outside. Because Ferrari had brought a new weapon to Austria, and almost nobody knew how far they were willing to push it. It was called ADO. That name sounds cold, technical, almost harmless. But for Ferrari, it represented something much bigger. It was a chance to attack the weakness that had followed them all season, the engine deficit that kept appearing whenever the car reached a long straight. Think of it like a runner with perfect balance, perfect shoes, and perfect technique, but slightly less lung capacity than the person next to him. That runner can look brilliant through the corners. But when the race becomes a sprint, the weakness returns. Ferrari had lived with that problem for too long. Their chassis was strong. Their cornering performance was respected across the grid. Even rivals had noticed that Ferrari could be the class of the field when the road twisted and the car could lean on its aerodynamic grip. But power still mattered. And Austria was the kind of circuit where power does not whisper. It shouts. That is why the ADO update mattered so much. It was not just another part fitted to the car. It was Ferrari finally trying to close the gap in the one place where Mercedes had been able to hurt them most. Publicly, Ferrari played it down. They did not call it a breakthrough. They did not promise a revolution. They did not tell the world that the balance of power was about to change. And that is exactly what made it dangerous. Because in Formula One, the most important upgrades are not always the ones teams celebrate. Sometimes they are the ones teams explain with careful faces and quiet words. Ferrari's new engine specification was built around a more extreme idea. More heat, more pressure, more stress inside the engine, in exchange for more efficiency and more performance when the driver opened the throttle. To make that possible, Ferrari changed important areas around the head of the engine, using stronger material to survive the punishment. That might sound small. It was not. Because when an engine runs hotter, everything becomes more fragile. The margins shrink. The part that works perfectly on a test bench can become a risk when the car is climbing the hills of Spielberg in dirty air, with track temperatures rising, and a driver demanding everything from the throttle. Ferrari knew that. That is why they were cautious. But they also knew the reward. If the engine survived, and if the new shell fuel worked with it, Ferrari could unlock exactly what they had been missing. Not a completely new car. Not a miracle. Something more believable and more frightening. A 10th here. A stronger exit there. A car that no longer lost the fight before the braking zone. And this is where the story begins to turn. Because by Saturday morning, the same Ferrari that looked ordinary on Friday started to look different. Hamilton was suddenly close to Russell. Not vaguely close. Not emotionally close. Close on the clock. The gap had collapsed from more than half a second to almost nothing in Formula One terms. The car still was not perfect and Leclerc still had work to do, but the direction had changed. The garage could feel it before the world fully understood it. Something had unlocked. And for Hamilton that mattered deeply. His win in Barcelona had already changed the atmosphere around Ferrari. Before that, hope had been careful. After that, hope became dangerous. A driver like Hamilton does not need endless proof. Give him one victory, give him one sign that the team is responding, and suddenly every session carries a different weight. Leclerc felt that weight too. Because Hamilton's rise was not just Ferrari's good news. It was pressure. Russell later explained his version carefully. He said he saw the yellow, braked hard, and lost time compared with where he had been. His argument was simple. He had been much further ahead before that part of the lap, then came out with less of an advantage. In other words, the yellow flag had cost him time, so he believed he had done enough. That explanation was not emotional. It was mathematical. And in a Formula One hearing, mathematics can be more powerful than outrage. But Ferrari's frustration came from something deeper than one sentence from Russell. Because Antonelli had backed off. That was the uncomfortable comparison. Same team. Same session. Same danger zone. One Mercedes driver abandoned his lap, while the other completed his and took pole. For Ferrari that looked impossible to ignore. If Antonelli believed the situation was serious enough to give up, why was Russell allowed to finish? If one driver sacrificed the lap, why did the other get rewarded? If yellow flags are meant to protect safety, how can the fastest lap of the session still come from a car passing through that area? Those questions were powerful because they were easy to understand. You did not need to be an engineer. You did not need to know the rulebook. You only needed to see the contradiction. One driver slowed like the lap was dead. The other slowed just enough for the lap to live. And this is where the rule became the whole story. The flag was not treated as a double yellow. It was treated as a single yellow. That distinction sounds small, but in Formula One, it changes everything. A double yellow is basically the sport saying, danger is serious, stop pushing. You cannot keep chasing a personal best through that area. The lap is over in spirit, even before the timing screen confirms it. A single yellow is different. It still tells the driver there is danger. It still demands a reduction in speed. But it does not automatically kill the lap if the driver shows enough caution. And those two words, enough caution, became the knife edge. What is enough? A full lift? A heavy brake? A visible loss of time? A clear reduction compared to a previous lap? Or just enough of a momentary lift for the data to satisfy the stewards? This is why Vasseur was shocked. Because from Ferrari's side, the emotional evidence felt overwhelming. Verstappen had crashed. Antonelli had aborted. Ferrari had been first and second. Russell had crossed the line under yellow and taken pole. The sequence felt wrong. But the FIA did not rule on feelings. They looked at the data. The stewards compared Russell's lap with his previous reference. They checked whether he slowed in the relevant Marshall sector. And after that review, they decided there was no need for further investigation. No penalty. No deleted lap. No Ferrari pole. Just a Mercedes at the front, and a Ferrari garage left staring at screens that no longer changed. That is what made the decision feel so brutal. It arrived quickly. There was no long public drama. No drawn-out hearing. No suspenseful delay that gave Ferrari hope. The verdict came fast enough to suggest the FIA believed the data was clear. For Mercedes, that was the end of the story. For Ferrari, it was the beginning of a wound. Because even if the lap was legal by the letter of the rules, the damage had already been done. The front row was gone. The cleanest symbol of Ferrari's comeback had been replaced by controversy. Instead of talking only about the ADUO update, the world was talking about Russell's lift. And that helped Mercedes in a way nobody could ignore. Because while the paddock argued about yellow flags, the most dangerous truth of qualifying got pushed into the background. Ferrari had found pace. Real pace. The SF26 had gone from struggling on Friday to threatening pole on Saturday. Hamilton's sector time was not an accident. Leclerc's lap was not a fluke. The new power unit had helped Ferrari close the gap in exactly the place where Mercedes expected to be safe. That is the hidden layer of this controversy. Russell's pole protected Mercedes on the grid. But the argument around it also distracted from the bigger warning. Ferrari's weakness was shrinking. And when a weakness starts shrinking in Formula One, rival teams do not sleep comfortably. Because upgrades are not just about one weekend. They are messages. They tell the paddock where a team is heading. They reveal whether a project is alive or stuck. They show whether the factory has understood the problem or whether it is still guessing in the dark. Austria suggested Ferrari was no longer guessing. The car still had its risks. The new engine was being pushed hard. The hotter operating concept could bring reliability questions. The race would be the real test. But for one qualifying session, Ferrari had shown Mercedes something they could not ignore. They could be beaten. Not in theory. Not later in the season. No. That is why Vasseur's reaction mattered so much. He was not just defending a lap time. He was defending the first undeniable sign that Ferrari's season had changed direction. And when that sign was taken away by a yellow flag decision, the frustration became personal. Because Formula One teams can accept being slow. They can accept being outdeveloped. They can even accept being beaten by a perfect rival lap. But what they struggle to accept is the feeling that they finally had the car, finally had the drivers, finally had the moment, and lost it because the rule was interpreted against their instinct of fairness. That is exactly what happened in Austria. Ferrari believed the moment belonged to them. Mercedes had the data to prove it belonged to Russell. And somewhere between those two truths, the entire race was transformed before it even began.